We did. It was Dress Like Tassoul Day.
You guys did good, man.
Thank you. Thank you. I see you.
What's Lafa?
It's a llama. I don't know. Llama.
It's fa la 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 la.
Oh, is that what it is? Marion got it for me.
Who got it for you?
Marion.
Oh, very nice. I was just being funny with the Lafa.
No, it wasn't. How do you? Well, the topic today is how do you know if you're funny?
When you laugh at your own jokes.
Hey, so Tass, I don't know if hold on. I don't know if you saw, but we posted in the Century page. How do you know if you're a great instructor?
I think there was only a couple comments, wasn't there?
There's 2 or 3.
100.
And it's a great topic, I think. And we'll dive in and we'll talk about why.
Agreed. You know, we talked about something last week, Metz, which I think is so important for people to understand. We may have touched on it again today, but I think, you know, I had some good insight just in the banter that we had back and forth, but, you know, identify an instructor in 2 different facets, like as a teacher on the floor, right, an educator, but also on the business side of things. And we may dive into that, but I think for people that are doing evaluations for instructors, I think there's 2 things that you need to look at. How are you on the floor as an instructor? And, and I've got there's some good stuff that I'm excited to talk about because things aren't always the way that they seem. And I think it's going to be, I think we'll have some eye-opening discussion today, which will be great.
Well, you know, I think in the context of the post, obviously people were, I believe, just talking about strictly being an instructor on the floor, obviously, right?
Right.
And I want to talk about that, but I'd love to get people to join us. I'm going to just post here that we are live. Please join our discussion.
Thank you for the play-by-play.
Yeah. Well, you got to keep things moving in showbiz.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
And that was definitely moving.
So, hey, we had a lot of great comments. I don't know if anybody that's on here now saw the best indicator of being a great instructor is how people talk about you at your funeral. Uh-oh.
Is that better?
Hold on.
Dang it, that's me. Hold on 1 second.
Is that you? And there he goes. All right, so, hey, Mr. Magbanua and Miss Perez, you were just in here. Well, thank you, Shelby. Isn't that biased or kind? So we put a post. I put a post in the Century page. How do you know if you're a great instructor? And wow, you guys really came out. Are we on?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Tass left. Here he is. And you guys came out in droves with comments and thoughts and suggestions. Here we go. There he is. All right. All right, you're back, Tass. So why is this such an important thing? Well, it's important because, wow, Tass, what are you doing? Anyway, it's important because it is important for your business, B, the legacy that you leave, I believe, right? And it depends how you define what makes you a great instructor or what is a great instructor. The other thing is who is the judge? Who is the judge on whether or not you're a great instructor or not? Mr. Ernie, I miss you, man. How are you? I hope you're doing well, and I hope you have a great holiday. Here we go. I'm just sorry, guys. I'm getting Mr. Tass back. Anyway, you know, who is the judge on whether or not you're a great instructor or not? And a lot of you put comments in the Century page about your students. But here's the thing. So let me just give us some things to think about, and I'd love to get your feedback, and I'll post it up, But I remember this. This is going back, has to be over 25 years ago. We had, I remember driving through a neighborhood. I remember it was my wife, my girlfriend at the time, it was her neighborhood. And I had heard about this gentleman. And there was a gentleman who had his garage door open, and he was teaching martial arts in his driveway, severely obese, not heavy, severely obese, in a uniform and a cigarette in his mouth. And guess what?
He had 100 students.
Well, I don't know what he had. It's not like I pulled over and asked for privates, right? But he had students. He had students training, right? And then you think, and by the way, some of you can comment and say, well, he still could have been a great instructor, maybe, right? But I also believe that we're in the business, of physical fitness and discipline, but that's so opinionated, right? But even he had students. So I bet you if I pulled over and asked those people, and by the way, there was like 4, right? If I asked those 4 people, is he a great instructor? The answer probably would have been yes, because they're the ones they're training with him, right? And by all means, maybe he is a great instructor, but just from first glance and perception, it just didn't appear that he was the guy that I would have chose to teach or train me in martial arts and how to be physically fit and disciplined and dedicated and, trained. Because I'm thinking this guy, I said he wasn't overweight. He was like severely obese and a cigarette in the mouth. You know what I mean? Teaching in his driveway with a garage with a Wave Master or some equipment or whatever. Again, this is 28 years ago. But my point is who is the judge, right? Who is the judge? And I saw Mr. Greg Silva and even, hey, look, you see who's on, Tass?
I cannot see the comments.
Oh, the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Ernie Reyes Jr.
Oh.
On. But he posted, we had Mr. Chung Park posted on this, right? There was a lot of great responses here. And I think collectively there's an answer on how do you know if you're a great instructor. But my opinion, being simple, is your retention rate, right? How long can you keep your students? Because we always say you got to be a great teacher, a great motivator, and a great coach, right? And collectively, I think that helps make a great instructor, right? But retention rate, quality of students. Now, who decides on whether or not you have a good quality of students or not, right? Who decides that? And some people in the post said, somebody said if you compete or go to tournaments with your specific, for your specific art, you're not going to be a Taekwondo guy going to a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu tournament, right? But if you're in open tournaments, I believe open tournaments, not closed tournaments, and nothing wrong with closed tournaments, but if you can go into open tournaments, somebody had posted, and you compete and you're doing well, you must be doing something right. You're a good instructor, obviously, right? But it's more than that. It's retention. It's the quality. You don't have to have students that compete. But I would love to hear your thoughts on this, and I would love to get it, because I have seen schools where they weren't great instructors. And I think to answer this question, you got to determine what makes you a bad instructor. What would you say to that, Tass?
I don't know if I was severely obese with a cigarette out of my mouth, hanging out of my mouth.
Maybe. Right?
Yeah, look, you get and define what is the purpose of the instructor, right? Is the purpose of the instructor to, propagate the art? Is the purpose of so just teaching Taekwondo, Kempo, Kung Fu, karate, whatever the MMA, BJJ, whatever it is that the mission? Is it just to teach and deliver that style of martial art? Is it to change people's lives and increase their confidence, increase their discipline, and make them the best possible version of themselves that they can be. I mean, what is the ultimate goal? Is it, for some people say, well, look, I'm a great instructor. I got my guys, and they're in kickboxing, and they compete. They compete in the ring, and now they have their pro card. And that makes me a great instructor. I guess if that's what you're after, then yeah, that makes you a great instructor. So I think you got to determine what is it that you want to accomplish, and are you accomplishing that? Because at the end of the day, I think we all, when you're passionate about something, you can develop a following. But I think it's always there's some caution in who are you following and why are you following them, right? And you go up and you said retention, Matt. So if we look at that as a number, most everybody watching, I'll say it's because of ego. Even myself, back in the day, I would say this. But you're going to say you've got a great retention rate. And you might have a great retention rate. But unless you understand how to figure out retention or attrition, you really don't know, because you remember the people that stay. You easily forget the people that go. And it's definitely worth inspecting, right, what you expect, and look to see where you're at, because that will give you a good indication of whether or not you're a good instructor as far as keeping the following that's come to you, whatever that following is and whatever it is that you're trying to promote and propagate.
Yeah, and Taz, so you don't see the things I'm posting up on the screen?
No, that's why it was a glitch earlier, man. I apologize. I was trying to get on my computer. It's just so funny, man. I got all Apple devices and all the same service, and my phone is always the one that gets the best service for whatever reason. I was trying to get on my computer where I could see all the comments, and that's why I was on and off.
Well, our students are the final judge, and Mr. Ernie Reyes Jr. here. I think the quality of your students is their ability to apply the principles taught in training to their day-to-day lives. I think that's absolutely a huge part of it. And it's interesting. The quality of, this is a great answer, because he's saying, I think the quality of your students is their ability to apply the principles taught in training. So it's not necessarily just the physical skills, right?
Right.
It's the principles taught in training to their day-to-day lives. And I think you have to have that ability to be considered a great or a good instructor, right? But then the other part of it is, how do you deliver the principles? How do you deliver those principles to keep the students engaged, to stay with you, to continue to learn, to what we call black belt and beyond, right? Because you could be, we talk about this all the time. We have instructors, I have an instructor that teaches, their students are the best students consistently over and over. I'm just going to tell you, like David Rodriguez at my Curry Ford School, he's been with me over 20 years. He's a driller. He's old school driller. You get your black belt with David Rodriguez, the majority of his students are on a world-class level. They can go compete, and we have a few instructors like that. But in the company, we talk about Dave's students, right? But retention isn't always the highest, because unless you just love training and love the drilling and this, that, and the other, where you might have another instructor that doesn't produce physically as skilled students, but they keep their students a lot longer, right? Sometimes, right? The retention rate is better. And then you have people that can do both. And it's not that David's retention rate is bad by any means. I'm just taking examples and concepts of the extremes here. And you have to be able to keep your audience engaged. Unlike us, obviously, by the numbers of people watching this show, Taff, we got a lot of work to do in broadcast.
We're apparently horrible instructors.
I need to get Ernie on this show. We need to boost our ratings, Ernie. I need you on here. We need to talk with you. Maybe we do that at the beginning of the year. Catch up with Ernie Reyes Jr. Everyone loves Ernie. Everybody loves Ernie. So, but my point is The reason why this is so important, though, is are you open-minded enough to know? And a lot of people put the comments there, right? We could put a comment there that said, you know, people that said, I'm not a great instructor. I'm always learning. I'm always striving to be better. That truly is the answer. That truly is the answer, right? But when push comes to shove, if somebody says, hey, can I give you some tips on your instructing? You said it, Tess. We're an industry full of egos. I mean, you're going to tell me how to be a better instructor? Who are you to tell me? Well, you to me are the same as me to you. All of you on here would be able to watch me teach a class and give me pointers. But in turn, I know I'd be able to watch one of your classes and give you pointers. But some people, you know, I have 8 degrees on my belt. You don't, you know, or whatever. And so sometimes we're closed-minded, which in turn hurts your legacy because you won't impact as many people, right? Hurts your business because you won't do as well financially. And I don't care if you charge $20 a month or $200 a month. If you can have more students training and do better, why don't you, right? But you got to be open-minded. You got to be able to listen and always learn. Like I said, just like you guys have posted this. Here's another comment. Keep chasing greatness. You will never catch it, but you will have fun doing it.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
This may have been a Tony Robbins thing. I don't remember who to give credit to, but it was talking about, you know, the idea of success, right? And so if your potential is an island, and here's where you're currently at, the shorter that you can make the bridge between where you're at and your potential is really what defines success. Ultimately closing the gap, right? And working to your full potential. So I think that's one of the things that I work with my team with on looking at students. It's also something that, quite frankly, we have to explain to parents. I mean, have you ever got the kid that comes in? You want to say something? Go ahead, Metz. I can tell you.
Well, there's a comment. I put it up on the screen. Metz, are you open-minded to fashion tips?
Yes, but he does not listen. Unbelievable.
I don't know why we would need to be, but go ahead.
Right on. But you know, how many of you have had students, and my guess is everybody, you've had students that have come through your door that just have this natural gift and this physical ability and this raw talent. And they come in, they're an athlete. And over the course of the journey from white belt to black belt, their growth is very small because they haven't pushed themselves, because they don't have to, because they're just naturals, right? And then I've had students that are 15, 16 years old that come in and have some mental disabilities, and maybe they've got the mental capability of a 6-year-old, but they're 15 years old. And I remember watching them when we used to do the old school traditional katas and forms, pumse, young, tall, whatever you want to call them. And I remember when this kid tested for black belt like 5-6 years later, because it took him extra time, right? When he actually completed a form and he got through the whole thing, there was not a dry eye in the place, because they all knew who that child was and what his struggles were, and where he started to where he grew to was way more growth than what that kid that had raw talent had and ended up getting his black belt. So, you know, I think, you know, we've said this, we've heard this over the course of the years, but black belt is a metaphor for personal excellence, right? And how can you improve yourself on that journey to be a black belt? And so the relationship that we have with our students is not the same relationship with all of our students. It's like having a relationship with your kids. You know what your individual child's strengths are, you know what their weaknesses are, and it's our job to help them grow into the best person that they can become. Well, that's also our job with our students. And I, as an instructor, whether I have 2 students or 250 students or 2,500 students, and you need more instructors, obviously, if you have that number, but I've got to know what the individual potential is of those individuals, and I've got to know how and when to push. We talk about this in business, about managing personalities. I've got to know how to push them. I've got to know what I can say. Do I push them? Do I pull them? How do I get them to that next level? And so for me, like, that's really what teaching is for me. It's understanding the individual and how can I help them become the best that they can be by being a coach, by being the motivator, by doing all those things, right? And so that's really the approach that we've taken over the years. And it's an approach, and we're predominantly kids, but that's an approach that I think a lot of parents really appreciate and respect, because at the end of the day, we've aligned in what we're trying to accomplish for their child, and that's their child to be the best possible version of themselves they can be. And by the way, I've changed that saying from when I was younger, right? I always say now, we want your child to become the best possible version of themselves that they can be. Not, Mr. Smith, we want to change your child. Nobody wants you to change their kid. They love their kids. No one wants you to change their kids. So if you're saying that when you're doing an introductory lesson or whatever, just be mindful of the words that we're choosing and say, Ms. Smith, look, we're going to change your child and we're going to do this. They don't necessarily want change. They just want them to be the best version of themselves. Yes, there's things they want to see them do better, but you know as well as I do, whether you're talking business or talking to parents, when you use the word change, a lot of different emotions start getting stirred. So that's kind of our approach and what we've done. And I think, by the way, I think that's pretty true for probably everybody, whether you're, in BJJ or you want to be an MMA or you're a cage fighter. That coach is taking you to the best level that you can be. That's what their goal is. And that's what their goal is to help you become your best version of yourself.
So, as you were talking, I think it sums up of what you were saying is, look, making sure that we can give the values and benefits that our customers want and need in a way that keeps them engaged for the long term. If you can't keep students, we can't consider ourselves good instructors if you can't communicate in a way to deliver the principles or the techniques that you want to deliver. So you got to look at your retention rate. And I keep going back to retention rate because it's the masses. It's not the few, right? There's an audience for everybody, right? So like even the very obese instructor with the cigarette teaching class with the cigarette, right, has an audience, has someone that would be attracted to that to learn. But you want to try to appeal to the masses, right? I think that if you have the ability to do that, to spread your values and the benefits, again, of what people want. Sorry, we're back, right? Anyway, I think that's important. And this is why by the way, this is why we always say stats and numbers don't lie. We could say whatever we want to say. We could say we're great instructors. We could say we don't lose students. I keep my students. I've had people with me 30 years. We could say all that. But it's not about the couple people you've had for 30 years. It's about the thousands of people that you didn't have for 30 years. And we want to look at what percentage of people on a monthly, quarterly, annual basis quit, right? And there is a standard. There is a standard. And that tells us if we're doing a good job or not at communicating on what we want to teach. So you may look at some of you may feel you're a great instructor because you're a master of your craft, and you feel that if you can train someone and they stick with you for many, many years, they're going to be great. But you gotta keep them for many, many years. So part of it is just the way you communicate that instruction, that teaching, and that the stats tell us that. Go ahead, Tass.
Well, with that, Metz, I remember years ago, I had an instructor, and I was frustrated. I'm like, God, they're a C instructor, and I was irritated. I was frustrated, and much like people have this gut feeling of, I retain all my students, right? My gut feel was, he could be so much better And then I went back to the numbers and I looked, and they had like a 3.6% attrition rate. I'm like, this doesn't even make sense to, like, but the numbers are the numbers. And how is this person keeping all their students? Well, you said earlier, are you giving them both what they want and what they need? But in my opinion, this instructor was giving them everything they wanted, but not necessarily everything that I thought they needed. And that's why my view of that instructor was like, we could be doing so much more. So even when the numbers are in our favor and we do have a low attrition rate, what else can we be doing, and can we deliver at a higher level? Because at the end of the day, we're not going to get our attrition rate to zero. It's not going to happen. We lose people. They move. There's all kinds of things that happen, right? But even with a great attrition rate, we have to define and decide what else is there. Are we getting, yes, look, we clearly are getting everything they want because they're staying because of that. But are we also giving them the things that they need, that they don't, people don't know what they don't know, right? And I think that's important. You went through this, several years ago, watching a black belt test. I think you talked about it last week. And, you had schools that had unbelievable attrition rates, but the quality of some of the students wasn't where you wanted. And he said, look, we got to get these students back on track. And so there's a lot of like tentacles off of this thing. I think the main thing is, listen, if you're keeping your students, that's fantastic. But what is the outcome? If you had to map out, this is what to expect over a 4-year journey or getting a black belt in our system. This is who you are when you come in. This is who you are when you earn your black belt. This is the journey. And these are what our goals are. And as I say that out loud, by the way, that really should be the picture that you paint when you enroll somebody. I've said this before. I've said it to parents. I say it to this day when I'm in the school. If you don't enroll your child on a 4-year, now listen, we don't do 4-year programs, just so I'm clear, but I say 4-year program and have them earn their black belt, you've done your child a disservice. I believe every child should go through a martial art program because it's an individual activity that teaches self-discipline, self-confidence, and the power of rewards. And I just think it's so important to understand that. And I truly believe that. And if that's the mantra, if you can paint the vision of this is who your child is today, or you as an adult are today, and here's what you can expect along the journey, and here's what you can expect that outcome to be, which, by the way, is called future pacing. People buy an emotion, but not only am I talking about sales, a nasty word, right? But it's also about the experience that they have. And you can't say one thing and paint this picture of hyperbole and then not deliver. You got to be able to deliver as well. And that's where you're going to keep your students. That's where you're going to have raving fans that come back to you. And when you start signing up students who are training with you when they were 9, 10, 11, 12 years old, and now they've got 4, 5, 6-year-old kids, and they're coming back, and generations of people are starting to come back to you to train because they had such a great experience with you.
Hey, we have a question for Tass.
Oh, yes.
What do you do as a great instructor? What do you do with athletes that need to go to the next level, i.e. pro fighter? Personally, I realize when the bulk of my skills are spent on the amateur level, I find it appropriate to refer the 1% to another club when I can't focus on them. Is this the right move?
That's a very interesting question. And the reason why it's so interesting is because it's very timely. So literally last night I was in one of my schools, and we had this student who transferred to our school, and he trained at an MMA gym, and he's a kickboxer. Okay. Our like core style is like Taekwondo from years ago. We're more like American freestyle now, but we're not a kickboxing school. I did a kickboxing match when I was a kid, maybe 2 or 3 of them. And he said, hey, listen, he goes, is it okay if, there's some kickboxing matches coming up. Is it okay if I participate? And I said, well, first of all, I said, let me be very clear. Number one, thank you so much for coming and asking the question. We obviously, can't control what you're going to do. And if you're going to go here, compete there. But that level of respect is very much appreciated. So I made sure that I rewarded the behavior because I want to know, because in our industry, we know if there's good places or bad places. Are they going to get hurt? Is there right place or wrong place? And I said, you absolutely can do that. I said, but here's what I want to be very clear about. Me, None of my instructors, none of us are kickboxing coaches. So for you to ask us to sit in your corner, we would be doing you a disservice. Do I know a 1, 2, 3, and a 4 punch and understand that? Yes, I understand that. But you don't need that. You need someone that's experienced in that. So if that's something you want to do, then what I would recommend is finding whoever is going to be in your corner. And I was talking to my instructors. I said, guys, we're not cut out for this. We don't have cut men. We don't have, people to we don't know any of that stuff. And so I was very transparent with him because it's not our wheelhouse. And this is one of the biggest things I think over the course of the years that I've learned, and I've learned it by watching and listening to Metzger, is like the truth will set you free, man. And you just got to be honest and you got to be transparent. And I commend you for doing that. So I would agree with you 100%. If you're not at a level that you can work with that person and give them the time and energy they deserve, or maybe don't have the experience that they need to take them to that next level, then yes, pass them on to the person that can take them to that next level. I mean, look, we've done it. We've done it as consultants. If we can't help somebody, we're going to find a different consultant that can help that person out. So I agree 100% with what he's saying.
Yeah. And by the way, I agree with you, Tass, and I was in that position as well.
I can hear you.
Again, I'm trying to think. This is 23 years ago, maybe. And I think I told you. So when I started Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu back in 96, well, I say 96, probably 1995 actually, but I went on the Gracie Cruise in 96. There was a nightclub here in town that would have boxing matches every Monday night. It was called Roxy's nightclub. And every Monday they had a boxing ring and you could sign up. Anyone can sign up and you go in there and you can fight for 3 rounds, I think, right? And just, kill people, or try to anyway, right? And there was a kid, 21, 22. He was, I called him, he was built like Mike Tyson. He was about 5'11", 221, solid, ripped. And I would go there on Monday nights and some of the guys that we trained with, because it was fun to go out there. And it's when BJJ was trying to come on the map, right? And basically, my instructor at the time said, he'll fight anyone in the place, and they can punch, and he'll grapple. He won't punch. And they didn't allow that. But this guy, Steve, was like, I'll fight him. I'll do it. And his brothers, because that's when Hoist was killing everyone in the UFC, are like, hey, man, we shouldn't do that. But let's find out where they're at. Let's go to their school. Long story short, Steve and his brothers came over to our school, and strong athletes, college football, right? And just not really good on the ground. But Steve wanted to get into MMA, right? But then he was hitting the heavy bag, and he had such powerful and fast hands. I said, look, you shouldn't worry about the MMA thing because his grappling wasn't strong. I said, but what about boxing? And he's like, well, I'll kickbox or whatever. Well, he wanted me to train him. And I said, look, I'll train you as far as I can take you. I'm not a boxer. So what did I do? I ordered all these boxing training tapes, as far as boxing trainers and training tips and how to train. And I told him, I'll take it as far as I can. Then there was a fight. Somebody put on some smokers or whatever. He goes in there, knocks people out in the first round. Then he wants to go to the Sunshine State Games boxing tournament. And I'm like, Steve, the way we're going to train this is you just got to outlast. We got to get your cardio up. We got to train the right way. You got to know how to throw a jab, right? So anyway, he won that, knocked out everybody in that, right? And then I said, Steve, listen, I'm not the guy to take you to that level. And if you eventually want to go pro, I said, you are built just like Tyson. You're so fast with your hands. I said, and I personally believe Kevin Rooney did unbelievable with Tyson. I said, I'll get in touch with Kevin Rooney, who was Mike Tyson's trainer for you guys who followed boxing back in the day up in Catskills with Custom Auto. Kevin Rooney, Teddy Atlas was up there. They were all young, and Tyson was the young kid, right? But when Tyson was with Kevin Rooney, he was destroying people, right? So I just thought Kevin Rooney for that specific style of fighter would be great. And Steve didn't believe it. And I remember one day he came in, I said, Steve, I don't know if I could take you further. Like, so let's get, I got Kevin Rooney's number, made some calls and stuff. And I called Kevin Rooney right on the phone, and we talked to him on speaker. And Steve was going to go up to Catskills, up to New York, and work with Kevin Rooney, but hurt his shoulder. Long story short is, again, we're an industry full of egos, right? And a kung fu guy, a karate guy, a taekwondo guy, a BJJ guy. If somebody comes into the school, you know this, Tass. A lot of times someone will say, look, I want to kickbox, or I want a fight in MMA, or I want to box in my case. And we put on the front, like, yeah, I can teach you that. It's not what we do, but yeah, I can do that, And no, you can't do that. I mean, and don't sit here, you can do that, because we all can to an extent, to a certain level. But if that's not what you eat, sleep, and shit doing, then there are people out there that can do it better.
Right. Just because you can doesn't mean you should, right?
Exactly. You got to recognize that stuff.
Well, and I think, Metz, that's, segue, same topic, but I think that's important because I think when you were defining what an instructor is, an educator, a motivator, those types of things, one of the things you left out is a counselor, right? And so a lot of times we feel like, you're counseling people. And I'm sure if you've been doing this long enough, you've had people in your office where there's people that are telling you things that they don't even tell their own spouse or their parent or whatever. And it's way past your skill set, folks. Like in the early days when I was young and I didn't know, I felt good about that because I'm like, wow, they trust me enough to come to me, and I would try and help them through that. It's not my skill set. Listen, I can't help you with that. I need to refer you to someone who's a professional that can help you with those problems. I can't help you with alcoholism. I can't help you with addiction. We think that's not our profession. It's not what we do. And for us to think that we can do that, you may take a crack at it and you may be successful, but again, just because you can doesn't mean you should.
And you know what? And by the way, listen, I'm making this, and I would love to have Ernie on. So Ernie, thank you. Said, great show today, guys. Lots of gems, very inspiring. Looking forward to being on the show. Definitely, my friend. We're going to take a break over the holidays. Come January, I want to get in touch with you, catch up. Love to get you on the show. Tell the industry what's up, what you're doing. Because as I said, everybody loves you, man. And would love to hear what you're doing, and people would love to hear what's going on in Ernie's life these days. So definitely would love to get you on. We've had a lot of great people on the show, right? And I would love to get you on. But you know what, Tass? When we do this, when martial artists, and this is, again, we can deny this, but a lot of us, not all of us, a lot of us will tell people we can do things that's not our specialty because we're desperate to get students. We're desperate to get new students. And this is why business is important, because if you're desperate to get students, you're going to try to do things for everybody, even if it's not in your skill set, just to get the student. While at the same time, make fun of the guy down the street who's doing $80,000 a month and calling them a McDojo, which some are, and whatever you define McDojo as. I'm just saying somebody who's just like trying to get as much money as possible, promoting people every month, that's kind of what I'm talking about, the extreme. But there are a lot of schools that do $80,000 a month or more that are not McDojos. They're just very, very good at what they do in the business that we're in. And it's almost like being racist, right? It's almost like just if a school makes money, they must be, just all about the money. And they just put that label, and it's just not the reality. It's not true. But when you're desperate to get a student because you got to pay bills, you'll be everything that you're not, to your customers. And that eventually hurts retention, and that eventually comes around, and that eventually puts people out of business. And we said it according to like merchant services, right? Because I asked this question. The reason why I keep saying the merchant services is with Century Martial Arts and Maya and stuff, we know that like over 30% of the martial arts schools have closed right now. And some of you may say, wow, that's a lot, but it's not as much as I thought. There's more coming. There's more coming because a lot of schools have still survived based on the idle money they received and their payment protection plan, their PPP money that they got from the government that has carried them through, but things may not rebound like you want. A lot of you are shut down again, and I think more are coming. However, I said, well, how do we know that? Well, we know that through merchant processing, right? Schools that take credit cards and stuff have canceled their accounts. They're closed. They're done. They're out, Their ordering ceased. It stopped. Everything's done, right? So you don't want to be a statistic because you could be the greatest hidden gem in the world. You could be the greatest instructor on this planet and have no one know about you because you don't know how to run your school or run your business. And whether you like it or not, you need to in order to expose your qualities and your teachings, right? So it's just really, really important.
Yeah, man. Look, I agree, and I think as we're having this conversation, again, there's so many facets to it, right? And I want to make sure that I'm clear. And I learned from Metzger, but it's about asking questions, because some of you on here may be like, well, listen, Tass, I've taken someone who had a problem with addiction, and I completely changed their life. Fantastic. That's great news. Good for you for doing that, because you've changed someone's life and helped them become the best version of themselves, right? I think it's important. There's other people on here that might say, well, sometimes when somebody calls and they ask for kickboxing, they don't really know what they're asking for. I agree with you. But you have to ask questions to know if that's really what they're looking for. I'll never forget Fernando Martinez, the kid's name. Fernando came in with his parents, and Fernando's dad was insistent on the phone. He's like, do you do Aikido? I said, sir, listen, great question. What is it about Aikido that you like? And he said, well, that's what my friend overseas told me to get my son involved. And I said, okay, fantastic. Well, listen, I'd love to schedule an introductory lesson. So I sidestepped the conversation, because when I got in front of him personally, I wanted to find out what really was driving him to have his son do Aikido. You know what his response was when I asked the question over and over again? He finally said to me, well, because my friend told me that Aikido was all about self-defense. That's all he knew about it. He didn't say, well, because I've studied the history, I really like Aikido, I want to understand the Japanese history more, He didn't say any of that stuff. He said because it's all about self-defense first. And then me at the time, because Taekwondo is exactly the same thing. That's our philosophy. So the philosophy is aligned. So I knew what we were going to teach this child was going to align with what he was looking for. And that's why every traditional form that we do begins with a block, right? It's all about self-defense first, That kid enrolled in our school, ended up getting his first degree black belt with us, became an assistant instructor, and was with us for like 5 years, man. So it is absolutely important to ask the question and then determine, are you going to be able to fulfill what it is that they're looking for or not? Or are they just asking you a question because they don't know what else to ask, right? I think it's important.
100%. And Miss Dewey said that would be awesome to have Ernie Reyes Jr. on the show. And I agree with you.
Absolutely.
I agree, man. It would be great. And I do miss him. He's one of the best people I know and one of the best people in the industry.
And an unbelievable martial artist.
One of the best I've ever seen. And then there's Jack Sardoni. One of my best friends in the world. And one of the best people I know as well. Hey, everybody. So tomorrow, we have our 20, and I got a text because they want me to bring it up. This is never the point of this show. We always want to try to give you things to think about, things that you can take back to help your school, help your business, especially getting out of 2020. But tomorrow we have our intensive, our 2021 intensive, is it, Tass?
It sounds good. Yeah.
But
I don't know why they keep asking us to talk about it when we don't even know what we're talking about.
here, let's be serious. Tomorrow we have an 8-hour seminar.
Yeah.
We have an 8-hour virtual seminar tomorrow, and it will be recorded. There's going to be breakout rooms. It's going to be the Maya team. It's going to be hosted and also run by Chris Rodriguez, our social media director, who, by the way, was in the hospital last week, spoke at an event in Miami, went right from the stage speaking got in an Uber in Miami to a hospital, admitted her had to have emergency surgery, and is still dedicated to be on the thing tomorrow and do the intensive for everybody, because we just feel, we've never done it, right? We've never done it, but we're doing this 8-hour intensive where she's going to open it up, and then I'm going to talk about the system of what we do with Maya and how we grow. And then Tass is going to talk. Mr. Klingenmeyer is going to talk. Adam Parman's going to talk. Chris Rodriguez, of course, is going to go over stuff. You can click on that link.
Silverman will be on. Yeah.
Yeah. Frank Silverman, the executive director, is going to speak, but it's something that will absolutely help you guys go into the new year and get out of this year. That's number one. Number two, I will tell you that, in February, we have our Maya Elite Seminar here in Orlando, Florida. And, hopefully a lot more people will be more comfortable with travel. And if you are an Elite member, you got to register now if you're an Elite member. And by the way, that's free. You guys know Elite members, so there's no money grab there. It's free. But you got to register because there's a hard cutoff, because we have to commit by the 31st of December. However, for those of you on this thing tomorrow, on the intensive tomorrow, if you wanted to get involved with our Maya Foundations program after the seminar, which is the lowest level, it's a 2-month, 4 calls with us, 2 months, 2 calls a month for 2 months. That's it. I believe we're giving 2 free tickets to the Orlando event, right, Tass?
Yeah, that's correct.
But more importantly, besides that, at the event, and for all of our Elite members, which we've never ever done, we also have a wealth program that Frank Silverman heads up, the wealth seminars. He runs the wealth seminars, and it has nothing to do with the martial arts business. Has everything to do with how to build wealth and be financially set going into your future, right? Protecting your assets, saving for retirement, making sure you have the right insurance plans and life insurance plans. We talk about investing in real estate, or investing in mutual funds. We bring in guest speakers. Long story short, because 2020 has been devastating for a lot of people, first time we've ever done this, we're opening that up to all of the Elite members to sit in on the wealth seminar come February, which is the 3rd week of February. I just tell you that, guys, because look, we are going to be here until we can't be here anymore. Whether anybody ever joins Maya, never joins Maya, Tass, you and I, there's no end in sight. We want to try to come on every week, give some great information, get legends like Ernie Reyes Jr. on the show, who, if he can even inspire you, motivate you, anything that can help our industry is beneficial to all of us. And so we're going to be here. But look, 2020, it hasn't been the best year. I know a lot of our schools, we say it, there's always exceptions. A lot of our schools had record years, right? Student counts up, financials are up, everything's up, right? Which is fantastic. But the majority of you, that's not the case, right? And open your minds a little bit. And somebody sent me a message, by the way, they sent me a message, private messaged me like 2 weeks ago. And they said, I can even read it, but I won't bore you with me looking it up. But they sent me a message and said, hey, how do we know who to listen to for a consultant in the industry? And I said, hello, you're talking to him. No, I'm not kidding. No, I said, what I said was, I said, look, there's a lot of great consultants out there, but take your time and do your due diligence. Get them on the phone. Ask them what their philosophies are. Ask them what they're going to do and how they do it. Talk to everybody and then make a decision for yourself who you feel can help you. Period. End of story. But I just urge all of you to take that next step now. I mean, I think we as people on this earth, not even in this country, have taken for granted the luxuries that we have had, whether it's just going out simply for a nice dinner or going to a movie or training in a martial arts school, or just being able to go to our own school and teach our students knowing that we're going to have classes every day. That was taken away from us this year. And you could see how that can happen. However, there's systems in place to where not only can you impact your communities greater and make a bigger financial impact for yourself and for your people if you have systems in place, but also things that if this something like this happens again, systems in place to where you're going to be okay, you're going to be fine. So,
Matt, with that, I'll tell you this, because this was all about instructors, I'll give everybody a little instructor tip, and then I'll give you one final thought in closing. But one of the things you did and encouraged me to do, video yourself doing a class, and then go back and watch your video, and then you're going to be your own worst critic, and you can look at the things that you need to fix or you need to work on. That can be a very hard thing to do. I remember this happened to be, I think it was your daughter's class, it was Little Dragons class, and you actually were just tracking the amount of time, movement time that they actually had in the class, right? And video is very telling. Sometimes we think we're delivering a great class and a great product, and we may watch it back and go, oh my God, yeah, it was a great lecture, but it was a lecture for 40 minutes and we worked out for 5 minutes. Like, that can't happen. So just video yourself, go back and watch it, because that will help you. Just by doing that, that will help you become a better instructor, right? Anytime you can video yourself and watch and play back, you're going to grow from it, because you're your own worst critic, number one. Number two, listen, I think it's important for all of us right now to be the beacon of light. And we know that vaccines have been started to be administered in the next 60 to 90 days. Average people are going to be able to be getting vaccines. That's the way it's looking, right? From everything they heard. Now, they say spring. If you fast forward 90 days, it sounds like a lot less than from now to spring. So 90 days from now, the average person is going to be able to get a vaccine. And the hope is that this COVID-19 thing is behind us. Where last year we came into this year, January, February, things were normal. And then mid-March, we got lambasted with COVID. And then for 9 months, we struggled. This year is going to be the flip of that. We can come out of the gate strong in January, February, but if we're still struggling, we've got to shut down, or we're sitting in that scenario, know that in the first quarter of next year, things should open back up, and we're going to have 9 great months to be able to get things to happen, as opposed to 9 horrible months where we had to struggle, figure it out, and just make it happen. So be that beacon of light for your students. Be the beacon of light for yourself. Don't get caught up in this negative mindset like, well, I'm not doing anything till we're on the tail end of COVID. There's no question. We are on the tail end. There's a vaccine. We're going to get through it. It will be behind us very soon. And do yourself the favor. Position yourself so you're in a position to win in 2021. And take advantage. Watch the intensive. You're going to get so much information. We talked about attrition today. One of the things I'm going to go over tomorrow is how to figure out your retention rate and what it's costing you if you don't retain those students, and what we can do about it. So that's one small thing that I'm going to cover tomorrow. But there's going to be action steps that you're going to literally be able to take away from that intensive, go put them in play, go work on it, and you're going to have a game plan of some things to do and some real tangible things. I think that's one of the things that we pride ourselves on as Maya, is giving you a list of items to be able to go do, and actionable items to be able to put in place in your school. So if you can be there, set yourself up for a 2021 success, get in the right mindset, hang around the people that are having the same mindset as you. And we're there to help you guys every step of the way.
And by the way, I'll leave you with this, because a lot of people say it, right? That I'm doing fine. I'm doing great. It's not how great you're doing. It's how great you can be doing, how much better you can be doing. You know,
where's your potential? Where's your potential?
What you're capable of doing, right? And you've all heard the saying, good is the enemy of great. We don't want to do what is great. If you think you're doing great, compared to what? Compared to what? You know, so it's just, what are you capable of doing? And by the way, Ernie, the opportunity to make a positive impact on the world is greater now than it has ever been by 10 times. And that's why we're going to get you on, my friend. Definitely going to get you on. Definitely.
Yes, absolutely.
I sincerely mean that. You know, I love Ernie. He's just a great guy. Really is. And
when we bring him on, you got to remind me. I've got a great Ernie story from back in Vegas. It's an unbelievable story. It's fun. It's a fun story.
We don't want to tell those stories.
Not right now. Yeah, but we will when he comes on. It was awesome.
I know the story.
Yeah, it was great.
Hey, just before we leave, I know some people are out. Give a thumbs up or no comment if you'd love to see Ernie on the show, Ernie Reyes Jr. on the show, and ask some questions and hear what's going on, and you know how he's doing in life and in business and in the martial arts world. How many of you would love to have Ernie Reyes Jr. on the show to kick off 2021? And now he just made some emojis, probably based on the story of Vegas.
Don't worry, Ernie. It's a great story. Nothing to worry about.
Great guy. Yeah, and then Miss Julie said, "Hey, Tass, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas."
Yeah, that's right.
Not if you tune in on the show. Come January. We'll be doing it. So, hey. We appreciate you guys, you know, definitely. And then Mr. McGraw said, followed Ernie since Last Dragon and Sidekick days. Love to see him now. So, yep, 100%. 100%. So that would be amazing. Mr. Halama, thumbs up. Mr. Paul Johnson, Mr. Trevor McClung, Mr. Shane Weaver, you know, so it would be great. It would be awesome. Great. So, and with that, I hope everybody has a great holiday. I hope that you all are able to enjoy the holidays. I know I was going to go to Pennsylvania to visit my brother, and last week that whole state basically shut down, restaurants and everything. And by the way, let me show you this, guys. Some of you may not like this. Tass, take a look, and I'll leave you with this. I don't know if you follow Florida, but, you know, we're not leading the world in cases. We were back in July. This was last night around 11 o'clock. I was out for like a business dinner last night, and then they wanted to stop and have some drinks or whatever, and then I'm just walking back to the car. This is what Florida's looking like, everyone. Sorry, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Oregon, California.
Wide open.
Wide open. Which kind of tells me lockdowns don't work, because if they did, the places that are locked down wouldn't be beating Florida. I don't know. But maybe Florida, maybe we're lying. Maybe we have 1 million cases a day. Who knows?
Funny, man. Well, hey, listen, everybody. You said it, but you have a Merry Christmas. And look, we appreciate you guys so much coming on every week. And thank you guys. And thank you for all your support and all your confidence in us and showing up every week and jumping on the show. You could be spending your time doing something way better than this. So we appreciate you guys. You know, have a happy holiday, however you guys celebrate. Have a great new year. And we appreciate you guys and look forward to seeing everybody back. Well, looking forward to seeing it tomorrow on the intensive and then back on the Mets Tassoul Show over the new year.
Yeah, thank you so much, guys. We got through 2020. I told you from the beginning, we told you we'll get through it, right? If you're on here, you most likely got through it and on to 2021. So have a great holiday. We'll see everyone in January. And we're going to reach out to our good friend Ernie Reyes Jr., get him on to help kick off the new year and motivate our industry a little bit. So we'll talk to everyone soon. Take care, everyone.
All right. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.